Before moving on to the orange book, which is going over equivalent ratios, I wanted to do a little bit of practice before we get started. For starters, I wanted to go over this worksheet, which practices writing equivalent ratios in tables, and then determining whether ratios are equivalent, and then finally using equivalent ratios to find an unknown part of a proportion. So for starters, what all this part wants you to do is to fill in the rest of those tables. So for number 1, as you might recall from our ratios and using ratio tables, all you are doing is filling in those tables by counting by whichever number is on which side. So for number 1, the top is counting by 9, so 9, 18, 27, and the bottom is counting by 2s, 2, 4, 6. Number 2 will do the same thing, 3, 6, 9, and 5, 10, 15. If you wanted to practice the other 4 problems, go ahead and pause the video now. Otherwise, the answers will be revealed in just a moment. As I said, there are the answers. If you're not sure how we got them, just remember we are counting by whichever number is on the top or bottom of our ratio table. Moving on to the other part, determining whether a ratio is equivalent or not. The easiest way, if you are fluent with your division facts, if you can tell that one fraction will simplify into the other, then it is equivalent. If you are not sure about that, this is still a calculator active unit. What you can do is cross multiply going up, and the answer should be the same on both sides. So 33 times 2 gives me 66. 11 times 6 also gives me 66. If you get the same answer, then your ratio is equivalent. However, in this case, we multiply going up. 7 times 2 is 14. 5 times 12 is 60. These are not the same answers, so this fraction will not be equivalent. Again, if you would like to do the other 4 on your own, go ahead and pause the video now. And here are the rest. It was somewhat of a pattern: yes, no, yes, and then yes, no, no. Those would be the answers to the rest of them. Remember, cross multiply going up when you are trying to determine if they are equivalent. If you go down, you may not get the same result. And last but not least, using that previous method of cross multiplying, you're going to once again just cross multiply. We'll do 21 times 2, and that will get me 42. But we do not know what the r is, so we don't know what we're cross multiplying. A good tip for solving a missing proportion is step 1, cross multiply, and step 2, divide by the other amount. And if you need to write this down somewhere, it should be in your notes from quarter 1. The notes are the one thing that we haven't been emptying out of our binder. But cross multiply, then divide. So we cross multiplied 21 by 2. Now we just divide by 3. So that's 42 divided by 3, 14. R equals 14. Number 14 is solved exactly the same way, although I'll skip this one for now in the interest of doing something a little different. Over here, for example, the variable is on the bottom. We are still going to cross multiply, only we're going to do 7 times 40. So, get our calculator ready. 7 times 40 gives me 280. And now we will divide by the other amount. In this case, it's 10. 280 divided by 10 gives me v equals 28. And lastly, if you would like to try those other 4 problems, now is your chance to pause the video. And those would be the answers to the remaining 4 problems. This worksheet is not going to be on Canvas just because we've been over it. However, if you wanted to go to this website right here, there is a whole bunch of other really good worksheets. It auto-generates a new one every time, so no, you will not be able to find the answer key to these exact problems. So there you go. But now on to the task at hand, the Orange Book review. If you have not attempted this yet because you weren't sure how to do it quite yet, take a moment to stop the video and go back and look at it before beginning. Otherwise, I'll assume that you have already finished and are just coming back to double check your answers. For number 1, it is asking how many red beads Elena will need to make 16 bracelets. So we look for 16 bracelets, and it looks like that she will need 48 red beads. Number 2, how many bracelets can Elena make with 24 beads? Well, let's see. Red beads, 24 beads, looks like 8 bracelets. Number 3, find the rate of red beads per bracelet. Well, okay, rate of red beads per bracelet. If you remember, unit rate is where one of the things has been reduced to 1. In this case, it says red beads per bracelet. That's going to be number of beads divided by number of bracelets. 3 beads divided by 1 bracelet is 3 to 1. So, my answer is 3 red beads per bracelet. And when it asks to explain, I divided the number of red beads by number of bracelets. That's my answer. Number 4, James said that he would need 25 red beads to make 75 bracelets. Is he correct? Well, I can kind of tell no, there's no way he's right, because the number of beads has always been much more than the number of bracelets. So, no, James is wrong. The question is, how did he get this answer? How did he end up with 75 bracelets and 25 red beads? When I look at this, just as a teacher, I can see that he solved the problem correctly. He just went about getting his answer the wrong way. He got this. Let's see, his mistake. He multiplied his red beads by 3 rather than the other way around. And some of you may have already seen from the table, it's all of this table is saying is it's the bottom number multiplied by 3 and you get the top number. Number of bracelets times 3, you get the number of red beads. James had this fact mixed up. He had it a bit confused. He multiplied his red beads by 3 to get the number of bracelets, which is just backwards. Moving on to number 5, it's telling us to use this little chart to solve for these 5, for number 5, 6, and 7 for those 3 problems. It asks, how many glasses of orange juice does the restaurant expect to sell in 1 hour? Let's see here. The list shows how many servings of different breakfast items that a restaurant expects to sell every 15 minutes. And then it says glasses of orange juice, 10. Okay, so we have, let's see, we have glasses of orange juice to the number of hours. Well, since they did everything in minutes, I'll just say minutes. So let's see, it's 10 glasses of orange juice every 15 minutes. That's what they expect. Now, how many minutes are in an hour? Well, if you're doing this at home, I can't stop you from Googling it. Google how many minutes are in an hour, and you would see that it is 60. So, we've got 15 minutes goes into 60. The question is, what did we multiply 15 by in order to get 60? Because that's clearly multiplication that's happening. Or you could do this another way. You could set it up the way I showed you in the earlier part of the video, finding equivalent expressions, we've got my OJ and my minutes. So we have 10 glasses of OJ every 15 minutes, and we need to figure out every 60 minutes. Minutes are on the bottom, OJ is on the top. Cross multiply, we have, let me switch color pens because this is getting a bit confusing. We've got 60 times 10, that's going to give me 600. So I've got my multiplication. Step 1, cross multiply. Step 2, divide by the other number. So I do 600 divided by 15. And that gives me 40. This restaurant must be pretty busy, pretty popular. They expect to sell 40 glasses of OJ every hour. So 40 glasses of OJ per hour. Busy restaurant. At this rate, how long will it take them to sell 200 cups of coffee? Okay, a little bit different. This time, they have our coffee per minutes. Per however many minutes. So their initial ratio is how many cups of coffee? Looks like 25 cups of coffee every 15 minutes. So 25 cups of coffee every 15 minutes. So my usual daily routine. And let's see, and they want to know how long it's going to take them to sell 200 cups of coffee. Because we still have coffee on top and minutes on the bottom. We need to figure out how many minutes. Luckily for us, they did not specify if they wanted it in hours, so we can take our time and do this in minutes and not have to worry about converting later. For this problem, let me use pink. For this problem, we've got 15 times 200. Comes out more red on the camera. Huh. Well, we've got, let's see, 15 times 200 gives me 3,000. Wow, okay, 3,000 divided by the other number, 25. So 120. It will take them 120 minutes to sell 200 cups of coffee. 120 minutes, which is 2 hours. Yeah, that's it. It'll take 120 minutes or 2 hours to sell 200 cups of coffee. For number 7, it's a bit more complicated. It says the restaurant serves breakfast from 6 a.m. until 10:30 a.m. They sell 6 omelets every 15 minutes. Should the restaurant expect to sell more than or fewer than 100 omelets? Explain your answer. I'm going to do away with the explain your answer because I always say if you show your work and it is adequate, I don't need a full paragraph explanation. Your work will suffice. So for this problem, let's see, from 10 a.m. until 10:30 a.m. Okay, so we gotta figure out how much time that is, because that's really gonna be key. So from 6 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. So we have 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 to 10:30. So let's count how many hours that is. So we have 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and that's half an hour between 10 and 10:30. So 1, 2, 3, 4.5 hours. So we need to convert 4.5 hours into minutes. Well, there are 60 minutes in an hour. So we'll do 4.5 hours times 60 minutes. So that's 270 minutes. Okay, so we have the first little bit. So let's go ahead and work out the rest of it. We've got 6 omelets every 15 minutes. So we'll put minutes on the bottom, omelets on top. Can't spell omelets even though it's right in front of me. So the question is, if I replace this with 270, am I going to sell more than or less than 100? Well, let's solve it. We've got 270 times 6. Let's see what that comes out to. Times 6, that is 1,620. But we still have to divide by that 15. Gives me 108. So, in the span of 270 minutes, that 4.5 hours, the restaurant should expect to sell, so I'll spell this part out, so they should expect to sell more than 100 omelets in that time. And I'll add barely. 108 is just barely more than 100 in the grand scheme of things. So this would be my answer. I would include all of my work, and then I would spell out my answer just like this. And this work off to the side, I can see that a student would have shown me they know how much time went between 6 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. They know how many minutes that is, as they've converted it. And they set up an equivalent ratio and showed their cross multiplication. All of that is perfect and would be exactly what I'm looking for. And that's it for the Orange Book work along. Next up after this is going to be equivalent ratio quiz. If you have been working on this nonstop all day, this is a good stopping point for the day. Don't do any more work for today. Come back and do a little bit more tomorrow instead. That's all. Bye-bye.